And we just found out that 59% of you have not subscribed. So if you could, just click that button real quick. And by the way, we started putting discount codes in the videos because you guys have terrible fucking retention. Please watch it all the way to the end. It's great value and you get a discount at this awesome ass store. Come to the other side.
Welcome to Coffee and Cannabis. I'm your host, Dr. Beast, big leader of the East, and this is my co-host, Gretchen Gailey, not hailing all the way from D.C., because today we are actually in her neck of the woods.
I'm very excited not to have to drive to New Jersey, not that I haven't developed a love for the Garden State, but so thrilled that we are here today in Ward 8 of D.C. at Anacostia Organics, one of the original license holders here in Washington. We've been through a lot trying to get legalization through and a lot of different I-71 shops, but this is a legit medical dispensary. They will give you what you need, and they care about the patients. That's what I love about this place. Yeah. Patients come first.
Yeah.
We also have the pleasure of drinking from Grounded.
Yes.
Local coffee shop just down the street. We always try and drink some local coffee. Yeah. And I'm excited. I know Eliza's excited to have with us today our wonderful guest, Ricky Williams. I know him. He's part of Project Champion, another organization that I work with. You know him as NFL great, cannabis advocate, astrologer to the stars. Ricky does it all.
Give it up. Give it up.
Thank you.
We're very, very happy to have you.
Yeah.
Thanks for joining us.
It's good to be here, back in D.C.
In this political environment.
And it's cool to be in D.C. when there's such a political environment going on. So, and at least today we got to be right in the middle of it, kind of.
Tell us a little bit actually about your trip, because I know there's a lot of activity going on. We're trying to make some movement happen for cannabis. We need it. What's going on?
Yeah, so I was invited here by the Black Conservative Federation to talk about cannabis.
Okay.
And the plan was to meet with the president, but he's in Texas, and so we were meeting with other people that are closely connected to the president. And so I got to sit in it's basically a briefing to the leaders in the African-American community about the benefits of the new bill.
Okay.
The big beautiful bill.
The big beautiful bill.
Okay.
And in my 3 minutes of getting to talk, I looked at my talking points, and one of the things that the president has said over and over again is he's used the term common sense. And I think it's fair to say in the country right now, it's common sense that cannabis does have some medical benefits.
100%.
And so it makes no sense for it to still be Schedule 1.
Right.
And so that was my message. And also another part of it is I think it might not affect the African-American community directly, but the trickle down is powerful of how cannabis has been used, is weaponized against African-Americans to get us in the legal system.
Right.
So, I got to say my piece in front of people. There's a chance that it might get back to the president.
Good. Well, we're obviously grateful that he's in Texas, and our love goes out to, all the folks in Texas, everything's happening there. I know you went to school there, right? Mm-hmm. So obviously a lot of love there. I spent some time in Texas. I went to the Military Police Academy there in Lackland Air Force Base. Wow. Yeah, so love Texas. But, it definitely would behoove him to, definitely prioritize cannabis in these conversations and really having these face-to-face, because I feel like, he's also someone that he's got to feel the energy.
Yeah.
And I think if he's able to sit down and really, hear your story, hear so many people's stories, from your experience as an NFL player, I have an experience as a veteran, like so many of us, it's rooted in wellness. It's so clear.
Yeah. And it's interesting because the idea of politics, and for most of my life, I haven't had much of an interest in politics. And it really wasn't until I got in trouble with cannabis that I found anything that really spoke to me in a way that moved me to advocate. Just because I was treated horribly for taking care of myself. And I think when you go through something like that, at least for me, I had this burning desire to do whatever I can to make sure that no one has to go through the same thing.
Right.
And now that, my personal issue, is a national issue, even international, really. I get to speak about it. And because of getting in trouble on the large stage, people actually will listen.
Right.
So it's cool. It just goes to show that young people you know, just because something seems negative at the time, if you believe in yourself and keep going, eventually people will catch up.
Yeah.
And I feel, I don't know, I look at if I hadn't gotten in trouble for cannabis, I'd just be a football player and
Right.
I'd be here and people would just be, you know, good game. But because of those experiences and what I went through, I have something to say and something that can really help a lot of people.
Yeah.
Well, and another great person that Ricky got to meet today was the pardon czar. He got to have a good conversation with Alice Johnson. Do you want to talk about that a bit
Yes,
more?
that was probably the highlight of my day. And she was the person, as I was talking to the group, you know, everyone was looking at their phone and rolling their eyes. She was like listening. She was making eye contact and she was really listening to what I had to say, because part of when I looked at her, part of what I brought up was all the people that are in prison right now for nonviolent cannabis offenses. And her job, and what she told me when we spoke, is that she's got a group of nonviolent cannabis offenders that are on her list to parole. And even more personally, and I think for the older generation, this is how it's happening. She said, my son experienced PTSD. He saw his brother killed in a car next to him, and the dad blamed him. And she said, the only thing that helped him sleep was cannabis. And he became an advocate.
Yeah.
And then she started to study, and she's like, wow, there's something here.
Yeah.
And what I find, you know, a Gemini air sign, is the power of just starting the conversation. Because if people aren't talking about it, then they're not thinking about it. And once we start talking about things and thinking about things, it allows opportunity for our minds to change, or what we call for us to learn something.
Right. And just like
One of my-
evolve our mindset,
Exactly.
right? And I feel like both of those examples that you gave just really, really hone into like sometimes these experiences is what transforms your mindset and helps you have and find that purpose, right? And I think if people in the cannabis industry really start to take some stock in human capital and what that's doing for people and what this plant is doing for people, you know, I feel like I wouldn't have had something to say if I was on a tour, I got my leg broke, it ended my career. I looked to cannabis after, you know, the military was feeding me opioids, and now I find a solution. And now I'm like, there's other veterans that need to know that this is a solution. And then you go into all these hurdles and you say, I have an experience and I have to use that catalyst to help others. It's an incredible experience to be able to take that pain and turn it into purpose.
Yeah, otherwise you're just stuck with it.
And it hurts. It hurts. The trauma hurts.
One of my friend's favorite phrases, he's a lobbyist around town. He says, you can't see eye to eye if you don't meet face to face. And I think that's so important, what Ricky's doing and other folks who have come to town this week to try and meet with these different White House officials, because they may be glazing over because they have no idea what this topic is about.
Right.
But the fact that we're here and we're talking to them and making these connections, that is going to go so much further. It's such a long way to keeping these conversations going. And you know which way I lean. Not to say that I don't love good old Joe. However, his administration was not having these conversations. Biden was not looking at this. Right. And it's refreshing to see the Trump administration being like, all right, how does this apply to veterans? How does this apply to minorities? How can they want to know? They're actually looking for answers on how this could work. Yeah. Which no one ever wants to know how this can work in Washington. Right. So if the president really does have an interest in rescheduling, which we're told he does, we hope that's the case and that he will move forward on it.
Yeah. And listen, we all need it. Going back to this experience of like everything being highly politicized, you know, you've been in cannabis for quite some time now. I'm sure you didn't expect that we would still be here today without federal legalization. You know, just considering that, you know, so many people that consume in so many ways, to the point sometimes even some politicians, what do you think the real problem actually is?
I think it's like anything. There's been so much energy and time invested in moving one direction, so many lives destroyed. And I think it's hard just to say, oops, I was wrong that fast, right? Because honestly, that's a traumatic experience for the people that were for the oppressors. And if they're the ones in charge, they're not going to willingly move towards that kind of traumatic experience. And I think any kind of major change like this, it requires enough people feeling strongly enough to shift the tide. And I think of people standing in front of politicians who they can tell are anti and still feeling confident enough to state their story without overdoing it and without underdoing it. It's a sweet spot. And I think the proof is in the pudding. You have to really believe in this to be able to stand on that stage and speak your truth without overdoing it or underdoing it.
Yeah.
It's really about telling your story. And that means you have to have a story, you have to believe in the story, you have to see the value in the story, you have to be willing to share it.
You in Jersey City? Use this code. Save on some weed, baby.
Considering the importance of the story, do you feel like sort of the experience of folks getting in the industry that don't have a connection or a real care or compassion for the plant has sort of disrupted our possibility to move forward faster?
It has, because the unconscious, and people, meaning if people aren't consciously for the plant, the unconscious training that they all received is there's something wrong with this. Right. And so I think that they just can't literally get all of themselves on board to move this forward. But there's a slippery point because, right, people that are too for it, they're zealots, and it's not really because to me, everything I do is always a question, right? How can this benefit me? How can this get me in trouble? And I think if we hold both of those questions at the same time, we're going to get answers that are useful in helping us realize how do we use this to improve the quality of our lives. And it should be a question for every person that consumes. Because when I ask people, like, when was your first experience with cannabis? It's like 80% of the time, knee surgery, breakup, right? It was in a healing capacity.
Right.
You know?
Always.
And people will say, I used it before, but it wasn't until I was messed up. And then I felt better that I realized, okay, this has some real value to me.
I wish people really analyzed the patterns of that, because I swear that was my exact journey. I smoked when I was in college, just truly recreationally. I guess, that's what you did at parties and things like that. Then I went away to the military, 10 years, put it down, just walked away. And then when I came back out, I looked at the plant so much more differently. I was like, wow, this is a medicinal tool. But it wasn't until I had that incident that it started to make my mindset shift. Mm-hmm.
I want to ask you a business question.
Please.
So you have your brand Heisman across the country in various states, but we all know your personal journey comes from wellness. And so how do you balance the business Ricky versus wellness and health Ricky, where you started?
Yeah, I mean, my first foray into the cannabis industry was pure, we call it real wellness. It was all about wellness. I was taking what I learned in Chinese medicine and Ayurveda school, so taking herbalism and creating real medicine, where it's not just cannabis, but cannabis with other herbs. And it was fun. It was thrilling. We made some cool stuff. But, every time I go to push the product, everyone would say, hey, where the weed at? Where the weed at? So it just felt okay that this is what I want to do, but I have to meet the consumer where they are. And so I switched my mindset, because to me, it was never about the business. It was about the value of the platform of when you have a business. And at first it was all wellness, but then I realized we have some work to do before I think we're ready to take that. So I look at the business as really advocacy, because I mean, we're making enough to get by, but we're not killing it. And until things change in this country, right, no one's going to be able to have a sustainable business in this industry. So I realized by having a business and having these conversations, I'm doing what I can do to push things forward.
Right. You have the product in New Jersey because you've been in so many places. Yeah. What is your opinion on the rollout there and sort of the political environment you've seen there?
It was amazing. And I will say probably my favorite thing about having a brand is we've been in 11 states. And so I've toured the whole state of Washington. I've toured Oregon. I've been all through Arizona, all through Pennsylvania, all through Mass. And so, and what's interesting is, especially when I'm doing dispensary visits, is like there's a culture in each different place. And a lot of it is based on the past regulations and the different types of smokers in each place. And I will say, when I was in Jersey, it just was so cool, and like, how quickly it like integrated into like the lifestyle. Because I had a Jersey dispensaries, you see all sorts of people coming in, and then Jersey, right? Jets, Giants, Eagles. That's how I know the dispensary: Jets, Giants, or Eagles. Yeah.
I'm glad you got that vibe in Jersey. Yeah. We from Jersey, baby, right? Yeah. Definitely the Garden State is very cool.
There's one thing that jumped out to me in Jersey is, in a lot of markets, when you find a dispensary, it's like in the warehouse district, or it's like a green street. But a lot of the townships in Jersey, it's like just right in the middle, open, like walking down the street and like, is that a dispensary? So just the way that it's been integrated into life, to me is cool. It's what jumped out to me.
Yeah, and it's really important to understand those markets because like my GM that works at my store, he's from Vegas and he used to run a cookie shop out there. And then he came to my shop, which is very embedded in the community. It's like walking. Yes. It's like a Williamsburg type of vibe. Yeah. And he had to, even though he's very experienced, he had to shift how he does everything because he was used to transient and tourism. And now he has to know these people. It's like when you go into your local coffee shop, they know, you know, he knows what people like. So it's a different type of business to run.
What do you think of East Coast versus West Coast cannabis? There's got to be a very different culture vibe, isn't there?
It is. I think the West Coast, not so much in Northern California, but kind of. The West Coast is more image based. You know, like the medical programs on the West Coast, you don't hear about them, right? And you walk into a dispensary and you don't know. On the East Coast, right, there's a medical line. It's like the medical side of it jumps out as being more predominant on the East Coast. The West Coast is more like just the image, the hype of it.
Do you think that's because of time? Because I feel like they always strategically roll out medically. I think it's to accept a more collective mindset that this is okay, but then when you use that as a strategy and don't actually care about the patient, then when those programs go away, so does the care for the patient.
Yeah, exactly. And that's one thing I will say more on the East Coast is that they don't even talk about patients anymore. You don't hear that anymore on the West Coast at all.
I feel like on the East, we're definitely trying to preserve that narrative because, you know, more people will create brands that are rooted in that because to your point, early on, that probably wasn't the direction. But I feel like now with the evolving of the world, people are more inclined to be with wellness.
But do you see it as, and I'm going to take a counter argument on this, but isn't it maybe an idea that maybe it's more accepted then on the West Coast?
Well, I think it's more accepted as part of recreational use is more accepted as part of a West Coast, right? It's like when I went to Texas, coming from the West Coast, everyone just assumed that I did certain things because that's the image, and because you know the medical program '96 in California, and it was definitely like spurred by AIDS patients in the Bay Area, so it took on medical, but also West Coast rap. There's a culture. There's a culture in California. And so the difference between, you know, the East and West is in the West Coast, medical means you get a tax break.
Right.
Right? And that's the only difference. And again, no one talks about patients that way.
Yeah. I just feel like, you know, we have these two examples on what's happened on the West, what's happened on the East. You know, really, we just all built this industry together bit by bit. Parts like fragmented, right? State by state. If we could brainstorm right now, this is, you know, really what we've put this political platform together. And if we can talk directly to stakeholders and people in the industry, what would you say to them, like for the greater audience to receive? Because we're not unified in this industry. And I think a lot of people have that idea that there's this utopian society in cannabis, and there really isn't. And, you know, alcohol and a lot of these other industries are work together. What do we need to do moving forward?
No, I was thinking about this coming to DC, and I was thinking, right, if someone asked me, what do you want? And I went to a realistic place because the conversation is about rescheduling. And so what I want is rescheduling to Schedule 3. And my personal belief is the biggest issue with cannabis, and it speaks to your problem, is to me, cannabis has an identity problem. It's like if you talk to people about what is this? Someone might say medicine, but if you ask them to like break it down, most people, they can't have that conversation. And I think until we can do research, and a whole lot of research, universities doing research, to at least be able to start to have some answers to that question of what is cannabis, then I think we're just placeholding until that can happen. Yeah. Everyone has their own individual experiences. And I think that's why they're powerful. I think that's why we're here today. But answering like, where does this fit in our culture? We don't know.
Right.
We don't know. So, but I think it will force us to ask some questions because certain people consume and it makes them paranoid. Certain people use it to deal with paranoia, right? And so there's just information here until we can openly talk to people and do research. I just think that we can't answer these questions yet.
I definitely think there's a branding issue with cannabis and the nuance of what it is. For example, in New Jersey, at first it was a medical program, but now there's legislation that ties it in with casinos, which means that they quantify that tax revenue with the sin tax. How can you roll out a program and identify it as a medical program?
You in Jersey City? Use this code. Save on some weed, baby.
But then identify the tax revenue as a sin. So the language and the nuance is so important, and people really need to get aligned with what we're going to call it so that if it's branded that way, everyone can carry that same message.
Exactly. And my sense, it'll be branded a couple of ways, but at least it allows people to say, right, answer intelligibly. Because if you think of going back to when we were kids and it was bad, right, and the parents or the teacher says, "Why are you doing this?" Right, right, But it's still, you ask us the question, right? We're finding the language, but it still doesn't feel comfortable, right? And I think until we have some consensus about what's going on, or at least moving in that direction, it's difficult to have these conversations.
Yeah.
Well, I think one thing that stands out to me, especially when you come to town, is, and tell me if this surprises you, these folks who are supposed to be making all these decisions, changing policies, deciding what's going to happen to this industry, how little they actually know. Do you think that a level of education that we are just not providing as an industry to a lot of these policymakers?
I mean, part of it is we could educate them more, and there's material out there, but in order, right, I took classes where the teacher tried their hardest to educate me, but I wasn't interested in the topic, and so nothing came in. And I find until people have a personal interest in the subject matter, there's just not motivation to pay attention to it, especially with all the baggage.
Well, how do we get them interested? I mean, and I've been in Washington forever, and they never care. But there's also, our problem here in D.C. is there's 42 other topics that take precedent over top of cannabis. So cannabis is always pushed to the bottom. And not that I fault, President Trump at all for Texas today, but that was just another example. It's like, had this meeting planned and we're going to do it, yay. And then it's like, oh, he's going to have to miss it.
Well, I think, to me, the answer is the conversations.
Yeah.
Because if I don't have an interest in something, I'm not paying attention close enough to the conversation to be interested in. But if it's always going on, eventually someone's going to say something that catches my attention, and I can start to make that connection. And I think, what most people can agree about the current president is we never know what's going to happen. And to me, that's good for cannabis, right? It's like, he gets a crazy idea and he acts on it, like, right? No, I'm serious.
But do you see exactly? But do you see cannabis as a crazy idea for America, or it's a crazy idea to wrap our head around that legalization could possibly finally happen?
For a white male politician,
yeah,
above the age of 65, it's just crazy. It's crazy, right? In their heyday, again, certain people, like this was the thing with, I think in my time, why I jumped out as an athlete, because in college and high school, the kids on the team that smoked, the coaches would try to run them off. So they wouldn't even get a chance to play, because then they would be a bad signal. But for me, I didn't start smoking until I was in the running for the Heisman Trophy.
Right.
And so just the timing of it is when it broke, I was the best player on the team and I smoked. And so it kind of put the coaches in a difficult position of they had to approach it differently.
Yeah.
And because of that, I think more players in the NFL now are allowed to smoke.
Yeah. Do you see yourself as a pioneer when you look at folks like Calvin Johnson and some other folks who have said, I value my body over this sport and going to put my wellness first?
Not on purpose, but yeah. I was just honestly, when I retired, I was just trying to retire without ruining my reputation. And then the story broke and I had to deal with it. And I could have pretended and run away, but I was like, well, I believe everything happens for a reason. So if I get busted, I'm supposed to get busted. Let me own up to this. And then I became a pioneer because I stopped lying about it. And I think being honest about doing something illegal that you think shouldn't be illegal, I think that's kind of what America was built on.
What did your other players and coaches feel about that? Especially Ditka. What did he think of
Well, by the time all that, I mean, when it first happened, it brought to the surface questions of, because really it was about money, right? He's going to give up all this money and this fame to do this, you know? And I think a lot of people didn't appreciate and understand that. There were certain assumptions we make about professional athletes.
Yeah.
And I think those are detrimental to the athletes because they feel like they have to fit in some kind of box. So I think my greatest contribution, and I've had a couple of people say this to me, is because of my story, athletes feel more free to be more themselves.
And we just found out that 59% of you have not subscribed. So if you could, just click that button real quick.
Yeah, I think when you are very functional, you put a wrench in their thought process. He's the best.
I think beyond functional, you know, when you're like, there's certain people we meet and they impress us. It's like, right? And I think, so that was it. I remember I was thinking, okay, all the news stories are saying that I'm the biggest underachiever and I've thrown my life away. And I was like, is that true? You know, and then I thought, well, it depends what I do next.
Right.
Yeah.
And so I took it on myself to be a good example.
Yep.
Yeah. And
Go ahead, Jen.
first time I met you, 2016 at an ArcView in Oakland. And honestly, like, I don't know what I was expecting, but no offense. I was expecting like a big dumb football player.
Yeah.
And you had,
Quite the opposite.
yeah, all these thoughts and actually a real opinion on the plant and what it could do and the value of this industry. It was definitely refreshing.
Yeah. I kind of was a big dumb football player until I started reading and consuming cannabis.
Wow. So cannabis, look, see?
Well, I think we get stuck in certain roles, and I think we need help to like envision ourselves differently.
Yes. Yes. I love that, and it just really makes me resonate with my own journey. There's a lot of states that we're starting to see flip now, and in Jersey was 3 years ago I started my journey and opened a dispensary, and I think a lot of people have an opinion when they go into this, especially as a licensee. Like, I think a lot of people had hopes for legalization sooner. In Jersey, I also had hopes that municipalities would do things differently without saturation. So for someone who's coming into the market now, say in a state that's flipping like Maryland, developing, Minnesota, what advice would you give to aspiring entrepreneurs?
That you got to do it for the passion. You got to do it because you see a place where you can make a difference.
Yeah.
You have to. Yeah. But I think it's supposed to be like that because it's not easy to change things. And it like weeds out all the people that aren't in it to really make a difference. Because when things don't go the way you think they did, you become depressed. You don't have the energy to keep moving. But if the target was for change and you can see a potential for change, I think it keeps you motivated to keep going.
Yeah.
I mean, I had to have that rude awakening too, because especially when I got in 2016, 2015, when I got in, right, it was a green rush, right, and that's when there was more access to capital because there was hope,
right.
And anyone that's been here 10 years has seen all the people fall off. But I will say, as all people have fallen off, the people that have been there the whole time, salt of the earth, right? Salt of the earth.
This industry will make or break you, but it will always build you.
Yeah.
So another thing we need to touch on that I don't know if that many people know about you is your love of astrology.
Yes, finally.
And I know she loves this. Whatever, a moonrise and this, that. I have no idea what's going on. But I know you two absolutely need to connect on this.
Yes.
What made you go down that road? And tell everyone about Leela. They should know about your app.
Yeah, I mean, that's the entrepreneurship. I honestly, I feel like everything that's happened with cannabis has been preparing me for the astrological journey because it's stigmatized, it's taboo, but it's something that has changed my life. And for me, my excitement about it and my love for it is that I see the potential for it to help people. I mean, I'm really a sensitive guy, and I think I'm most sensitive to is people suffering. And it's like, if you know that you have access to something that can help someone love themselves and appreciate themselves more, that's the gift for me.
Absolutely.
Is helping people appreciate themselves. And why I fell in love with it is the same time period when I left the NFL, I got in a bunch of trouble, and no one I talked to could relate. And talked to this woman who knew nothing about football, but she was an astrologer. And the story she told matched what just happened in my life. And I was like, whoa, there's something here, right? And people aren't dumb, right? People are going to keep coming back to something because the thing that they're coming back to offers them some value. Mm-hmm. And instead of judging them or it's to be curious, like, what are you getting from this? And to me, I get a lot of clarity about who I am, and that makes it easier to make decisions.
What is your sun, moon, and rising?
Yeah, so I'm a Gemini sun.
Okay.
I'm a Cancer moon, and I'm a Virgo rising.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, but I created this thing, and so I built an app. And I built the app. Taught myself to code, and I'm working on this app, and it's cool because I get to bring forth my astrological ideas.
Yes.
Because astrology is a language, but once you use a language, you find your own style with it. Right? And so I feel like I've been studying this for 20 years, and so I feel like I'm creating poetry. And so the sun, moon, and rising, but what I found, something that I've put out into the world through Leela, is the strongest planet. Mm-hmm. So much astrology is sign-based. So much astrology is sign-based.
I showed her my profile, and she was like, "This explains so much about you," and I'm like, "Okay,
yeah."
So I'm gonna put you. I'm just gonna embarrass you.
All right, go for it.
I'm just gonna embarrass you. So we were talking, and one day I was just curious. I was like, "What's your birth information?" So I put her information in, and strongest planet. All right, strongest planet is Jupiter.
Okay.
Jupiter.
Luck.
Yeah, luck. Exactly.
Yep.
Jupiter, but also luck, but also someone who's very opinionated. They know the right way, right? Jupiter's our religious.
I do. I'm rarely wrong.
Also very Aquarian.
Yeah, exactly. But Jupiter and Cancer, all right? And Cancer rules the breast.
Rules of what?
The breast.
Breast?
Breast.
Okay.
Yeah. So in astrological.
What does that mean?
And listen, it's really simple.
Okay.
In astrological symbolism, Jupiter is the largest planet.
Right.
So if you put the largest planet in the area of the chart that rules breast, sometimes it will produce large breasts. Mm. Right? Right. And so, okay, but here's putting her on the spot, right? Is that the nature of like expansion, right? Is that the negative side of Jupiter is overexpansion, right? And first 2 times that we hung out, okay, right, the buttons came open.
They did.
Right?
They did.
So,
I can't help it.
They're the stars.
But, this is what
Always bust open.
That's what I'm saying.
And I'm trying.
That's Jupiter. So, this is the reality of astrology,
Ricky.
right?
Thank you.
Once I saw the Jupiter in Cancer, I laughed. I was like, okay, that's what's supposed to happen.
Awesome.
Bingo!
Love it.
He's not wrong.
He's not wrong.
Now I can't not unsee it.
Yes.
Whoa.
Yes.
He's right.
Well, I have to be with Jupiter and Cancer in the first house because the first house is the body. So it's something that when you meet someone and it's Jupiter in the first, something jumps out to you about the person.
Yeah. I just, my wife actually just gifted me this book by Deborah Silverman.
Yeah.
I don't believe in astrology.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I actually was at a launch party with her a couple of months ago.
Oh, yeah?
And she's doing my chart on a summit thing next month. So
Oh my God.
she's cool. I like Deborah. Cool.
Me too.
Cool
Please
Gemini.
share the information.
Yeah.
I would love to join and learn. I mean,
I sure will.
I love this book, and I'm only probably like maybe 10 pages in. I just got it like 2 days ago, but I'm about to give it to everybody like you that does not believe, because
it's not that I
it
don't
is
believe.
in the
I don't
stars.
understand.
Fair.
Yeah.
And I think that's a lot of people's challenge,
Yeah.
which I love that you created, an app to educate people, because it does go beyond the depth of, either just your sign or your big 3, as people refer. They really have to understand the houses, the planets, what they do, what they mean.
But there's one thing, just what I teach, and what I've noticed is people that get into astrology, because it's a language, so there's a mental. You have to be like smart, right? Because you have to make a whole lot of connections and memorize a whole lot of things and do a whole lot of integration. But I find the people that study it, it's like dogma. Is they go more based on what they read something is supposed to mean in a book than what they're actually observing in real life. And so the reason I created the app, because it's about, yes, we use the language and the concepts, but we're referring it back to someone's life and what is showing up in time. So it's not just a mental understanding, it's a felt, lived experience of it.
On first analysis, I am a Sun, Moon, Aquarius, and a Capricorn rising.
Mm-hmm.
What are your thoughts?
So the easy way, right? Aquarius is all about innovation. Thing about Aquarius energy, it doesn't have the ability to go down the right path and stay happy, right? And the thing, right? But also, but it's air, and air.
We're both Aquarius.
The word for air is aspirational, right? It's because it needs to meet their concept of things, right? So sometimes it can stay up here. But the Capricorn gets stuff done. An earth sign is practicality. So we can have innovative ideas, but it takes the work ethic and the know-how to actually make it real. So I would expect, all right, if I was talking to someone, I'd say, right, if you're interested in business, right, think of something that's going to make a difference, right? My teacher says Aquarius loves nothing more than the sound of a rule breaking. And there are stupid rules, and I think Aquarius were put on this earth to do something about it.
Ricky, oh my God, you're speaking to my heart, because it's really not that I'm a rule breaker, because I was in the military for 10 years.
Yep.
I followed rules, answered orders, said yes and no, but it was just the times where I just felt the rule was just a little too stupid.
Exactly.
That I was like, no, we're going to push the envelope on this, because I need things. My famous saying is make it make sense.
Yeah.
I need to operate in making things make sense.
So one thing, when you get into astrology, Aquarius is ruled by Saturn and Uranus. And so in order to know the rules are stupid, you have to follow them and be like, I don't think this is working the way they said it's supposed to.
Right. We are a walking contradiction. But at the same time, I feel like in my path, it's been very much going into systems, to your point, and then seeing what's wrong with them and then being disruptive within it.
Exactly. Yeah. That's the trajectory. That's what Aquarians are meant to do. That's why we could say someone has a lot of Aquarius in their chart, they're going to be late bloomers, because you have to have experience before you know who you truly are and what needs to be changed.
Damn. I can hit my heart with that one. No, because, I've been working for a really, really long time, and I feel like it wasn't until I had that situation. And then I'm also like very much into numerology. So a lot of my catalyst happened at my 33rd birthday, Jesus year, all those things. So, I feel like I had to really go through life before I had clarity on my pathway forward.
Yeah. Thank goodness.
Wow. Astrology definitely saves lives.
Yeah, sure does.
Maybe not mine, but
it adds quality, because it's like someone when you drink wine, right? It's like, this is good, right? It gets me nice, it gets me where I'm trying to get, and then you take a class, right? And you drink it, and you can start to taste flavors, or cannabis, right? Right? I talk to some people, and I'm like, which terpenes, which flavors do you like? And they're like, it's just weed. And I'm like, what? What? But there's something about when you can appreciate the different flavors, it adds to the richness of the experience. Yeah. And I think when you can appreciate the different flavors of you and the different flavors of other people, appreciation, right? It improves the experience. Like, people can't really annoy me anymore, because I'm always curious of, where did that come from, right? And so I look at the chart and I'm like, oh, it makes sense.
Yeah.
It makes sense.
The chart always answers the questions. Thank you so much for that. I love that, obviously we're here to talk politics, shift policy, and make impact, but it's always fun to have a fellow lover of astrology by my side.
Well, maybe all we need is a bunch of Aquarians to go out there and break these rules.
Yeah, exactly.
Break cannabis.
It's a movie.
He was
I'll
telling me his
Gretchen,
favorite movie.
Yeah, one of my favorite movies. Yeah, no one's ever seen this movie, but it's called.
Neither have I.
Yeah, The Fish That Saved Pittsburgh.
Okay.
Have you heard of the movie?
Nope.
I'm a Pittsburgher. I've never heard of this movie.
So it's a movie starring Dr. J, basketball player, and he's a professional basketball player in the city of Pittsburgh. In the opening scene, he's in the hot tub after a game, and the team sucks. And one of the kids who looks after the team is really into astrology, and he's reading his books, and he's like, I'm looking at the stars, and I bet you're a Pisces. If we just had more Pisces on the team, I think we could win. So they created a basketball team of only Pisces, and they won the championship. The Fish That Saved Pittsburgh.
I need to go watch that movie. Listen, that's strategic. And the reality is we are in the age of Aquarius. Mm-hmm. So the shift is happening. We just left the age of Pisces. And, now we're going to start. That's why AI has come from this, right? Yeah. All of that is aligned.
Beautiful. Yeah, sure is.
So hopefully we can get it together and save the world.
And we can have a whole conversation about the ages. I mean, that's mind-blowing stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, whatever y'all say.
Yeah, exactly.
Listen, we won't bore y'all too much with our astrology. Please make cannabis better. Change the laws. Listen, this is our political series. We're so grateful to have you. Thank you for stopping in. Gretchen, thank you for allowing us to come down into your city.
My city's awesome. Y'all
Shake
need to come
things up.
down here more. DC needs shaking up.
Yeah.
But coming down here in July, you guys deserve some credit
Yeah.
because the humidity is horrific and
Yeah.
it's hot.
It's been a lot. But
It's a lot more than jerseys.
very grateful for, Linda Green allowing us time and space in her dispensary. Please come check them out. It's a mother-daughter duo, only, I think, second Black woman licensee in the whole state and the only one on this side of the river. So come, be intentional when you spend, right? Shop Black-owned businesses. Make sure you shop Ricky's product, Hit Stick, download his app, and let's just continue the momentum and continue to share our story so that we can get this shit passed, okay? Cannabis needs a little bit of love. Until
Pass
next
safe
time.
banking.
Say again?
Pass safe banking.
Pass safe banking. All right. Do you have any last words, Ricky?
I just want to say thank you. Thank you for this opportunity to chat. Got to talk about my two favorite things in the world.
Yeah, me too. All right, guys. Until next time, this is Coffee and Cannabis. Peace.
And we just found out that 59% of you have not subscribed. So if you could, just click that button real quick. And by the way, you in Jersey City, use this code. Save on some weed, baby.